This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, good morning, both of you. Um, Moving forward with the smart meter billing, interval meter reading billing. So far, what we have done the device management, creating a new device, which is going to act basically as a interval meter. It has its own register group and the device category based on which we have created the device. And as far as the billing is concerned, we have created the new billing parameters. The entire billing master data we have redesigned, taking into consideration of the RTP, the real-time pricing interface, because in the case of interval meter, the metering results will be available to us in the form of interval data, and that will be there in the profile. And from the profile, the RTP will extract the information and then calculate the sum total of on-peak quantity, mid-peak quantity, off-peak quantity, and maximum demand, and then transport these values to the operands what we have in the rate. And in the rate group, the fact group, we have maintained information about the operand connection with the RTP outputs, and also we have created the values for the price operands, and then we have put all this information in the facts. So as far as the billing master data is concerned, the data is ready, completely ready. Now, once the billing master data is ready, we can create our installation data, that is the utility installation for the premise, and then we will do the device installation so that it becomes ready for the move-in. Now, in our case, all the data is ready. As far as the billing master data is ready, we have to create a new premise and create an installation. Before that, we also have to see the MR unit, what we have to use. We can use the existing MR unit. Now, what is the purpose of MR unit? The MR unit is one which controls the scheduled date of meter reading. Now here we have to create, as usual, a meter reading order. The very purpose of meter reading order is, once a meter reading order is created, the billing order is created. Billing order is created. But for these meters, which are interval meters, when you create a meter reading order, we cannot enter the MR results. We cannot enter the MR results like we do in the case of EL01. Instead, we must have a profile which is assigned to the meter. The installation has a device, that is a meter. Meter will be assigned with a profile, which is the EDM profile. In the EDM profile, we will have the data, the interval data. So based on the meter reading order, billing order is created, and the billing order is executed when you have the data in the profile. So after creating the installation data, we are going to assign the installation to the point of delivery. That means in technical master data, so far we didn't discuss on the point of delivery, which is called POD. But when you're going to use EDM, POD becomes the most important technical master data. POD has got a lot of significance, but in the context of billing, what is the role of POD? We will examine, we'll create the POD and assign to the installation. Then we can do the moving. But before we create a metering order, we need to understand what is the purpose of EDM profile, what kind of EDM profiles we have, which profile is required at the moment, how to create a profile and assign to the meter. So all this information, once you make it ready in the system, we can do the move-in and then metering order can be created. Now, moving forward, let's first create the new premise, and for the premise, we'll maintain the installation data. So we will take one of the existing premise and create a new premise. So let me go to ES31, find out an installation maintained for the division 60. 223 is the installation. We have the premise 179. Let's create the new premise. Go to premise, create, copy 179. So new premise is 219. So for 219 premise, we will prepare the installation data. 219 is the premise. So key date, I can take anything like say 01 2020. Division is 60. Premise is 219. We have created a new building class and accordingly rate category. Z601 is our new building class, that is smart meter, and corresponding rate category we have got Z601. You can use MR unit S1. It is giving monthly meter reading around 30th or so. So we will see how to do the moving in this case, considering the amount of data that we have to have in the profile. So for testing the EDM, we will manage maybe 2 or 3 days of profile data so that you don't have to enter quite a lengthy data in the profile. So we will save the installation now. Installation is 250. So 250 is our installation. Now let us find out the device which is available for doing the device installation. So if we go to MM60 and then use the plant as 6001, we will find out the material for which we have created the device category. Then for the material, you can find out the meter. So reference material. Let me go to change 219. Correction object is 89. Our maintenance plant is 6001. So MM60 6001. 291 is our material, 3-phase alternate current interval meter. So for 291 material, we will find out what is the device we have created. So go to IQ09. $291 is the material, and then we will use the status included available status, and then execute. I think we created only one device probably. Yeah, the meter what we have created is 1133. This is a meter number, which is a device number. Now let's do the device installation. So go to EZ31. The installation number is 250 and date of installation is 01/01/2020, and the new device what we have is 1133. Activity reason, installation extension, and here you will see there is no periodic consumption. We cannot enter any expected periodic consumption because there is an interval meter, and we also cannot enter any initial MR result. Initial MR result means in the conventional meter, at the time of installing the meter, we know what is the meter reading. But in this case, we cannot enter any MR result because conventional meter means you will have one value, what you will enter. But here it is interval data. So there's no possibility of the meter reading data to be entered. but all of them will be defaulted to 0 in any case. So rate type is going to be Z601. Here we have to also enter the fact group. While preparing the rate facts, we had used 0001 as the fact group. We have to enter this, and based on that, system will determine the rate. So rate is determined only when you enter the fact group, and most important is the particular device what you are having here, the register, it will have what we call the interval data. Okay, the most important part of the data in the register group is it has got interval data. So by chance, if we have forgotten to enter the interval period in the register group for the register, the rate cannot be determined because it has to recognize this is a smart meter. If it's a smart meter, what is the interval data? So that interval period has to be available. So this we have already taken care when we created the register group. So 15 minutes interval. Now we will save the device installation. So our installation data is ready with the device installation. Now we have to create a POD and then assign the POD to the meter what we have created. Now what is POD? Let me explain. Point of delivery. Point of delivery is of two types. One is called standard POD and another is called deregulation POD. So there are two types of PODs, standard POD and deregulation POD. Now, in this case, when you're talking about standard point of delivery, we create actually a technical POD. It is also called technical POD. Now, technical POD is required for assignment to the meter for the billing purpose. So the basic purpose of technical POD is for the purpose of billing the smart meter. Now, what is the point of delivery? Now, in the conventional meter, we have the meter identified with the meter number, which is assigned to the installation. And when you create a meter reading order, we know what is the meter for which the meter reading will happen. And we'll enter that information in the system for so and so meter, this is the value. But in the case of interval meter, the distribution company is not doing the meter reading. Because as you know, interval meter will have the interval data continuously recorded for every 15 minutes duration. The meter itself will have a local database where all this information is stored. As and when consumption starts happening, for every 15 minutes, it will keep on recording the data in the local database, what is provided in the particular meter. Now, this meter reading will be done by a third-party company, which we normally call it as AMI. It's a remote meter reading company. AMI is a meter reading company which is having the infrastructure, resources. Technically, it is well qualified to do the meter reading remotely. So this AMI company will be doing the meter reading for all the meters, interval meters located in a particular region. But when they do the meter reading, how will they identify the meter? Because in our database, we have identified the meter with the material number, serial number, and the equipment number. But the AMI company is a platform independent application software. That means the AMI company is not something which is providing data to a distribution company using only SAP. There could be so many distribution companies which could be using their own softwares. But in all these cases, the company has to provide data for the meter. So how will they identify the meter installed in the locations? So the AMI company will fix one number to each meter which is located in the particular region. If there are 1 lakh or 1 million meters located in the particular region for which they are doing the meter reading, each and every meter they will identify with a number which is called point of delivery. Something like customer material info record or vendor material info record in the case of Like in the case of if you say in the retail organization, we create SKU, stock keeping unit, which is basically the article what we are selling in the store. So the particular article or the material what we are selling in our organization in the store, we identified with a material number, and the data is stored for the article. But the vendor is going to supply this particular article. So how can they identify this article? Because they have their own database, they also have to maintain the number of the article which will be supplied to retailing company. So they will normally use the barcode number, that is EN, European article number. So every article manufactured by the company will have a corresponding EN number, which is identifying the article. So that means the supplier has got a identification number for the article what they are supplying as the EN, but that article what we are buying is identified with our own number in our database. So now what we do, we connect them together. That means, let us say we have got an article number as 1000 in our system. To this, we will assign the EN number provided by the vendor. That means when you order on the vendor, we are saying you have to supply so-and-so article 1000, which means this particular barcode number article. Then the vendor will be able to supply the article. Likewise here, we are having the meter installed in the particular locations, but that has to be uniformly given the nomenclature of the identification by the AMI company. So AMI company will provide a number to each and every meter. That is nothing but the POD, point of delivery. That means this point of delivery is uniquely identifying as the number of the meter. So when the data will come to SAP, they will say we are sending the data for so and so POD, which in turn actually means they are sending the data for a particular meter, what is recorded in our system. So the AMI company POD has to be assigned to our meter. So then the system will know when the data has come for so and so POD, it actually means the data for the so and so meter, which is identified in our system. So the technical POD means a uniform identification numbering, which is deployed by the AMI company, wherein they will provide a number to the meters which are installed. And when they do the meter reading, they say that we are doing the meter reading for so and so POD, the point of delivery, which is uniquely identifying the meter installed in the particular service sector, okay, or the particular segment of the market where the meters are installed. So that is the purpose of technical POD. Technical PODs are used for identifying the meters to be billed with the interval data. Now, deregulation POD is not involved in the billing. The deregulation POD is used for the correspondence. It is basically for the communication purpose. Now, usually in the deregulated market, you have different players like distribution company, generating company, transmission companies, and all these are basically energy partners. They have to exchange the data between themselves. Like every month, the distribution company has to send the data saying, this is the consumption what we have observed in the particular location, the sum total of which will be sent to the generating company, and generating company will say, this is what we have generated, so that, based on that, they can do the settlement. So in the case of deregulation POD, they assign a POD to installation. And deregulation PODs are required when you are not having a smart meter. If smart meter is there, technical POD is there, for which the profile data will be there. We know the exact consumption, how it is happening based on the interval meter data. But the deregulation POD will come into the picture when you have no interval meter, you have the conventional meter, but there we'll be creating a specific kind of a profile, which is called load profile, which is another type of profile, what is there in EDM called synthetic profile. Okay. This synthetic profile will be created for n number of installations. Let's say a typical 2-bedroom apartment in a particular city. So for each of the installation, we will have a load profile assigned. This profile will contain the synthetic profile data, the data synthetically determined based on the sample data of the actual smart meter. Okay. So based on that, we'll be able to split the regular meter data into interval data. And then we will have the profile data assigned to the installation. Every month, they will collect the data for each of these installations, summarize it, and then send it to the generating company. So when you are explaining the synthetic profile, I will explain what is the purpose of load profile, when it should be used. It is not used for the billing purpose. It is used for basically arriving the estimated interval data, even though you don't have the interval meter. That's the concept of the synthetic profile. So broadly speaking, there are two types of profiles, two types of POD, technical POD, deregulation POD. Technical POD is something what you assign to the installation having a smart meter. And deregulation POD will be assigned to the installation which will have a synthetic load profile. Okay. Now, in order to create the POD, we have to check the customization. What is the customization data we have to maintain? All the customization data is available because it is a client specific, but we need to understand what is the customization data. So let us go to technical master data in IMG. So we are going to utilities and then select the master data and then go to point of delivery. Select the point of delivery. Define the number ranges for the point of delivery ID. Now each point of delivery has to be given a number. So you can maintain external number or internal number. Usually we can go for the external number because usually this ID will be provided by the AMI company. Now, whenever they are using a smart meter in the newer versions of SAP ECC 6 with the enhancement package 7 or in the S4HANA, the SAP system will also be using a smart meter integration software. It's basically smart meter integration platform. So using that particular platform, it's called MDUS, Master Data Unification System. So that is provided in the newer versions of the SAP, where the entire device management activity will happen through the MDUS. So when you create a device, the MDUS software will create the meter and also will generate a what we call the POD, and that POD will be assigned to our meter. But in our case, that particular software will not be there because you require to do the interfacing activity. You have to install that software in SAP and then use it. Okay. So here you have created device as usual in the then the device management device category and the device. So here the point of delivery we have to create and then assign it to the meter. So how will you identify the POD? You require a number. So we have maintained a number range here. So the number range can be internal number or external number. We have marked it as external. It's a very large number range because it is going to be huge number of PODs which will be there in the installation. Generally, they go for also, depending on the country, depending on the AMI specifications, it can also be external alphanumeric number, okay, so that they can manage a wide range of meters which are available in the installation. So here we have maintained external number range, which is numerical. Now here, define point of delivery type. Select here. So SAP has given two types of point of delivery. One is called standard point of delivery and another is called virtual point of delivery. The technical POD is called standard point of delivery. The standard point of delivery means it is identifying the real object. Say for example, if you have a meter, it's a physical object. We can see the meter, it's a physical object. And this object we are identifying with a POD, point of delivery number. Virtual PODs are used in other areas when they use intercompany data exchange. That means when the companies are basically sending the data from one system to another system, they will use a virtual point of delivery, like in the case of settlement, etc. So virtual point of delivery, each distribution company will be having a virtual point of delivery for their area of operation. So end of the month, they will compute what is the total consumption in their area in the form of interval data. So that is assigned to a virtual point of delivery, and they send this profile data to generating company. So standard point of delivery means it is a real object. Virtual point of delivery is identifying data which may not be real object, but it is giving a kind of a allocation of data to some kind of installations or some total of installations like that. But in our case, what we require is a technical standard point of delivery. Now define the structure of the point of delivery ID. That means when you create the point of delivery, how will you fix the ID? Now there are two types of ID what you can have. One is called the masked ID and there is a flat structure. The flat structure means whatever is the number of the POD, that is the number of the POD. That means, let's say POD number is 1 lakh. Okay, that is a number. So it's a flat structure. Okay, 1 lakh is the POD which you have created. But in the case of masked POD, they can have some kind of additional data assigned to the POD. It depends on the configuration or development of the functional model program. Like say first 2 digits can be for the country, then the next 6 digits can be for the postal postal code. Then the next 5 numbers could be for, let's say, distribution company identification. And then after this, the POD number, which is the POD number what we maintain in our database. Just like how you maintain for the functional location a structure identification, XXX, NNN, or AA. Okay, so there it is purely masked number. There is no number range in the functional location, but because you are creating functional location also as a connection object, the number range is given in the connection object. But if you are working only with the plant maintenance, the particular functional location is identified by a masked number range, which is basically structure of the functional location, like AO underscore GP, what we have used. So likewise here, you can decide like what kind of numbering you can use. So if you select here, define structure of the point of delivery, SAP has given here 2 example. Now let us select 01 and then see the detail. And if you see the field settings, here it is having a flat structure. Flat structure means no other masked numbers will be there. You have to just give the number to POD, like 1 lakh, 2 lakh, 1 lakh 1, 1 lakh 2, or 90,000, a pure number, okay, or alphanumeric or numerical number. That is the identification of the POD. But if you use the structure indicator category 2, it is given an example for the Germany where the field settings are given. The first 2 are for country, then LFDN, NETZ, PLZ. That is basically like what is the postal code, what is the distribution company name, okay? So you can use some kind of additional data which comes before the point of delivery. So together it becomes the point of delivery. In our structure, we are going to use basically the flat structure. That means whatever number we enter, external number for the POD will be the number. So that is the flat structure. And then you have what you call, this is a configuration data. So now let us create one first point of delivery, and then we will also assign it. That means so and so POD is identifying our meter, which is there in the installation. To create the POD, we'll go to technical master data and then go to point of delivery, create. Now valid from, let's say 01/01/2020. That means our point of delivery is valid from the 1st of January 2020. Structure category, we will use it as flat structure. So if you use a flat structure, it becomes just the point of delivery ID. For the convenience, what I will do is use the meter number itself as the point of delivery. So it becomes easy for me to identify, although it is not the standard convention. So here I'm making it as 1133. That is my external number, which is also a kind of a meter number what we have. So our point of delivery identification number is 1133. So here I will say technical POD for meter is equal to 1133. And then POD type, you're going to select standard point of delivery, and it is a technical POD. Okay. So then continue. Now we will go to allocation. Allocation means This POD refers to which meter in our database. So our meter number is 1133, assign meter number 1133. And this assignment we are doing with respect to 01/01/2020. Effectively from 1st of January 2020, the POD number 133 refers to the meter 1133 effectively from 1st of January 2020. Unless you have the POD assigned to the meter, we cannot do the billing because it is a technical requirement, because the meter as such is identified by the POD, and here we have created the POD and assigned it to the meter. So in the case of technical POD, we are assigning the point of delivery to the smart meter. In the deregulation POD, we will assign the POD to installation. That of course we are not doing in our case because that is used only in the case of deregulation exercise. But here you are interested in the technical POD. So 1133 is our POD number assigned to the meter. So now we will save it. So technically our data is completely ready. Now we will do the what you call the move-in process, because our installation is ready and we have got the what you call the POD also created. But before going to the move-in process, where we will create a move-in and a contract is prepared, we will start now working on the EDM in terms of the profile management. So far, although we did some work in EDM where we basically created our RTP, real-time pricing interface, now we have to start working on the profile management, because end of the day, EDM is nothing but managing the interval data in the form of profile. So we are going to create basically in EDM first a profile, create the profile header, create the profile, then allocate the profile to the meter, then enter the values for the profile so that data is ready in the profile for the interval meter reading billing. Okay. So what is this profile? Okay. So for that, what are the configurations we require? So let's go to IMG and then select EDM. So select the EDM and then go to basic settings, profile type. Now, whenever you are going to create a profile in the easy access, we have to enter a profile type. Just like when you create a sales order, we enter order type. When you create a purchase order, you enter purchase order type. Likewise, when you want to create a profile, we have to enter a profile type. Something like, the structure indicator what you're using and the category of the functional location when you create a functional location. Likewise, we are going to enter a profile type for creating a particular profile. So what kind of profile types we can use? The profile type is what something we can define, although here SAP has already given 7 kind of profiles types. But whatever profile type you customize or create has to be assigned to an internal definition of the profile category. That means, broadly speaking, whatever profiles we are creating in the system, they have to belong to one of the system defined profile category. So here, for instance, the profile type is 1, which we have maintained, name as historical profile, and it is assigned to a profile category as 1. So in the system, whatever profile you create, it belongs to one of these categories. So what are these categories? Because these are system defined, they are coded. We cannot create our own profile category, but whatever profile type we create has to be assigned to one of these profile category. So let us try to understand what are these profile category, and when you use them, what kind of profile can be created or what is the attribute of the profile. So first we will work on the elementary profile because that is what we require. Elementary profile means we create a profile, assign the profile to the meter, and in the profile we can enter the data. That means the profile, once you create, we have to feed the data into the profile. Now, how will you enter the profile data? That means whenever you create any profile with the category elementary profile, it needs to be entered with the data. That means for this meter, this is the profile and this is the data. So you can basically enter this profile through various methods. In the actual business scenario, the AMI company will send the data to distribution company. It can either send it in the form of IDOC, intermediate document number, or it can be used some kind of data extraction like BAPI, but usually IDOC is used. Basically what is IDOC? It's a data exchange medium. IDOC is something like universally accepted method of data exchange happening between two systems. The two systems are on different platform or maybe in the same platform, but data distribution can happen between them by using the data exchange. Ad hoc is something like like if you're sending the mail earlier, like I want to send a postal data to somebody. I used to write letter, or I used to get one envelope. In the envelope, I'll put the paper in which I will written the contents. Then I will seal the particular envelope. On the envelope, I will say, this is the receiver's address, this is the sender's address, and then mail it. Okay. It is something like that. So basically, the IDOC is a data carrier. It is something like an envelope which is having the data. So naturally, there are two parties, sending party, receiving party. So AMI company is a sender, distribution company is a receiver. So the receiver company, the distribution company will receive the data in the form of IDOC, and this data can be read into the profile, what we have. That means every month when the metering will happen, the AMI company will send the data in the form of IDOC, and then you can read the data into the profile by importing the IDOC. But in our case, we don't have the possibility because we don't have the AMI company. We cannot receive the data, so we can enter the data manually. Okay, basically, let us say I have the data in the Excel profile. Excel, I will create some data, test data, which is a 50 minutes interval, and then put this data into the profile. That means you can either enter the data manually or import it. Of course, in the real-time business, we cannot go on entering the data manually because it will be millions of meters. Okay, so they will receive the data and then read it into the profile. Okay, but in our case, in order to test the RTP billing, we have to enter the data. So I will generate some data for the interval data, let's say for 3 or 4 days or 2 days. Even if you have 1 day data, we can put the data into the profile. For understanding the purpose of RTP billing, we require some test data. So basically, elementary profile means a profile in which you can enter the data, you can edit the data, you can change the data before the billing, and then it'll go for the billing. It's something like I create a sales order, I'll enter the data and then save it, then it goes for the delivery. But before delivery is created, if any data has to be changed, I will do it, then the delivery will be created. So once the billing is done, you cannot do any change in the data because it's already built. Okay. So basically, elementary profile will provide you a profile in which you can feed the data, check it, correct it, and then make it available for the billing. So that is what we require in our case, basically elementary profile. Okay. Now comes what you call the synthetic profile. Now synthetic profile cannot be used alone. It also has to have the day profile. Okay. So whenever you work with the synthetic profile, two types of profiles will come into picture. One is called synthetic profile and one is the day profile. Now, when is the time you require the synthetic profile? If you're having a smart meter, then you don't require the synthetic data because the smart meter is actually reading the interval data for every 15 minutes. That is the real consumption data, what we have in the interval meter, which is coming into our system, and based on that, we do the billing. The synthetic profiles are not used for the billing, but they are used for deriving the kind of a synthetically estimated interval data. The synthetic profiles are used only when you don't have the smart meter. Now, whenever you have a meter, if you're using a conventional meter, the meter will allow you to do the metering as and when you require, but usually once in a month, so that you come to know the consumption, what has happened for the particular period. But based on the metering result, we cannot understand what is the pattern of consumption, how the consumer is consuming. Like what is the rate at which they are consuming every 15 minutes, half an hour, or a day. we cannot identify because it's a totally aggregated data. So we cannot understand the pattern of consumption. But for the energy companies and distribution company, ideally speaking, they must know how the consumers are consuming with respect to time scale. Okay, that means every half an hour, every 1 hour, or once in a day, like that. The total consumption what you're reading should be visible in the form of interval data. But when you don't have the interval meter, how can you get the data? So what the energy companies used to do before the smart meter came, they used to develop some kind of, the formulas, basically like, some kind of, uh, algorithm, like earliest load profile. Even before the smart meter came and today we are having the interval data, the earliest load form was created by scientific methods synthetically way back in 1935. That means at that time, obviously you had only regular meter. Naturally, you cannot have the interval data. But particular research companies working for the generating company, they developed the load form basically using the scientific method. Okay. So likewise, in the case of sensitive profile, we create basically a load profile. So how do you create? So what usually they do, like there are so many energy companies or energy research companies worldwide in every country. So actually what they do, they put a smart meter, actual smart meter in a sample installation. Let's say a 2-bedroom apartment in, let's say India, in the particular city of, let's say Chennai or Bangalore, okay? That means you are putting an actual smart meter for a typical installation like a 2-bedroom apartment or a 3-bedroom apartment or a commercial installation with 50 kW installed capacity, okay? Then using the smart meter, they take the consumption data for a typical date, which is basically mapped into a day profile. Day profile is basically like an elemental profile. It will have the data, but we can store the data for one day, for 24 hours. So they put a smart meter and then do the actual meter reading for a typical day, like a summer weekday, summer weekend, winter weekday, winter weekend, or if you have any other season for particularly weekday, weekend. Why weekday, weekend? Because Monday to Friday, weekday, you can expect some kind of pattern of consumption. Weekends and public holidays, you may have a different type of consumption. So they actually put a smart meter, take the consumption data recorded in the smart meter for a typical day in a particular season. So let's assume we have got summer and winter, and in summer we identify a weekday and weekend. Likewise, you have profile, 4-day profiles are created. Summer weekday, summer weekend, winter weekday, winter weekend. Then we put the actual data, which is read by the meter in these profiles. That means we come to know the sample data for a typical day. Then based on this data, we generate the data for a synthetic profile. That means you cannot enter any data in synthetic profile, like elemental profile. In elemental profile, you are entering the data. Either you're entering or importing, okay? But once you create a synthetic profile, you cannot enter any data. It has to be generated. So for the generation of data, we'll be making use of day profile. So once you have the data available in the day profile, based on that, we generate a sensitive profile for the whole year. Okay, that means starting from January to December, considering all the seasons, weekday, weekend, we come to know a typical consumption pattern, what is expected from a 2-bedroom apartment. Then we will assign this synthetic profile to the actual installation, which is a 2-bedroom apartment, where we are having regular meters. So regularly every month you do the meter reading for the particular meter, and naturally you can expect some variation. Let's say if we have got 1 million 2-bedroom apartments, we are using all regular meters only, but consumption will not be the same. So consumption will vary, but all these installations are assigned with the synthetic profile, which is basically estimated interval data considering typical consumption scenario in a 2-bedroom apartment. So after you enter the metering result into the particular meter, result is entered in the installation, then based on the data, it will find out what is the estimated interval data. It will use a billing ratio, and then based on that, it will find out what could have been the interval data based on the actual meter reading. And once this data is ready, they will combine this data and then send it to generating company. That means even though you don't have the interval meter, you are able to estimate a kind of a synthetic profile data used for the communication purpose, used for the settlement or for the data to be sent to the generating company, we can use it. So we will work out how to create synthetic profile, how to create day profile, how to integrate them, and how to generate the data for the synthetic profile, and how to assign this profile to the installation, and then see how it can calculate a ratio every month with respect to actual consumption data. So synthetic profile, day profile will go hand in hand. Synthetic profile is something where you cannot enter the data. Data has to be generated. For generating the data, we make use of day profile. Day profile is a profile which is acting like a elemental profile, will allow you to enter the data, but you can enter the data for only maximum 24 hours. Okay. Now comes the formula profile. Formula profile means just like synthetic profile. Here, the formula profile, once you create, you cannot enter the data. Rather, data is generated again based on a formula. That means in the case of formula profile, you can say formula profile is like a output profile. But the data in the output profile is generated based on a formula which is applied on the input profile. Like while structuring the RTP, we used one copy 01. If you remember, we used a module program, formula profile allocation, copy 01. So what is this copy 01? It's a module program. So what it will do, you have the input profile, which is containing the actual consumption data, which is the actual consumption data. Now, when you use copy 01, the formula, what it will do, it will generate two output profiles. It will generate two output profiles, one containing the copy of the actual consumption data that is in kWh. That means we have the input profile. On that input profile, when this formula is applied, it will generate two output profiles. The output profiles here are nothing but the formula profile because I created with the particular formula copy 01. So one output profile will be having the data as it is copied from the energy data. Then the second output profile will have the demand values. So we have seen how demand values are created. That means for each consumption, 15 minutes, it will calculate the demand, and the demand value will be put into a demand profile. So here both outputs are basically designed with the formula profile. So formula profile is nothing but the value of the profile is determined based on a formula. So in order to calculate the value, you require the input data. So separately, we will see how the formula profiles will work using two formula. One is copy 01, how it will work. Then we will use one more formula, which is called limit 02. Okay. In the case of limit 02, you will have three input profiles, actual consumption data, then you got a limit profile and the price profile. Then the output profile will be consumption below the limit, consumption above the limit, and amount extra they have to pay for the consumption above the limit. Okay. So how it will work, we can see. And if you want, you can also put the formula limit 02 in the RTP design. In that case, the entire billing will change. Okay. So I will give you how the concept will work in the case of limit profile. So basically, formula profile means a profile what is created using a particular formula. In order to generate the value in the formula profile, you require the input data. Based on that input data, a formula is applied and the values are generated for the what you call the formula profile. So there are four types of profiles here: elementary, synthetic, formula, day profile. We are going to create all these profiles. Whenever you create a profile as a end user, our profile will belong to one of these category. Okay. Now, what is this integral profile? Integral profiles are left for SAP. That means there are certain instances where the profiles are created in the background automatically by SAP. Like when you create a synthetic profile, for every synthetic profile, system will create a integral profile. That means there we are not creating the profile, system is creating. Okay. But what is the purpose of integral profile? We will see. Okay, when you're working on the sensitive profile, we will see integral profile. Integral profiles are used when the sensitive profile is used or when the settlement happens in the EDM, basically intercompany data exchange. A profile is created by the system, which is called integral profile. So we cannot create any integral profile. We can create a profile which is either elementary, synthetic, formula, or T profile. SAP has reserved the category 05 for creating system-defined profiles during certain scenarios. So we will see during the sensitive profile how the integral profile will be created. So here profile type is historical and the category is basically elementary profile. And then we also have forecast profile, schedule profile. All such type of profiles are used in the case of the intercompany data exchange. Forecast profile means, let's say distribution company has to send every month the expected consumption forecast from their region, okay? Because energy company has to generate actually. So whatever they have to generate has to meet the demand, and demand itself can be varying month to month, day to day, hour to hour. So usually the distribution company is expected to send what they require for their region in the form of a profile, forecast profile, based on the data and based on their own generating capacity for the particular month. The generating company will prepare a schedule profile and send it to distribution companies. Then we come to know what is the comparison. Is the energy company good enough to provide the data for a particular date, or is there any shortage of power so that some trading can be done with the other suppliers? So all these will happen in the energy market. Sensitive profile, formula profile, day profile, integral profile. So basically in an elementary profile, we've got three types of example: historical, forecast, schedule. And synthetic profile belongs to category 2, which is basically synthetic, and formula profile belongs to the particular category 3, and day profile and integral profile. So in our case, we're going to create a profile which is a historical profile, which is basically elementary profile. Now define the permissibility of interval length for the profile type. Suppose I'm creating a profile with the profile type 01, historical profile. What is the permissible time interval? So here we can see our profile type is 1, which is basically historical profile. We can have the data entered for every 15 minutes or for 30 minutes or a day. Okay. But in the interval, you can see there are intervals given here as 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30, 60. Okay. Now, internationally, every energy company has come to standardization. It's going to be like 15 minutes. Okay. But there are some countries like UK, now they are trying to implement with the 5 minutes. 5 minutes, what they call settlement, they call. That is every 5 minutes, you must know what is the consumption. Okay. So whenever you create a profile, the profile data what you enter is for what duration? Is it for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 15 minutes? So these are the allowed, interval data. We have to use only whatever available here because these are system defined. Tomorrow, let's say academic interest, I want to have profile data entered for 120 minutes. Every 2 hours you want to have the data. Then you don't see here 120 minutes. But that can be created by the ABAPer using the system modification. It will use a particular module program, and then we'll be able to have a profile where it will allow 120 minutes of consumption. Every 120 minutes, every 2 hours, we have the data entered. So depending on the requirement, the ABAPer can also design the new interval of time. But internationally, now we have come to a kind of a understanding it's going to be 15 minutes. Then comes the profile management. Define the number ranges for the profiles. It means whenever you create a profile, you need to identify a profile with a number. So here it's going to be internal number, because while creating the profile, we cannot enter any external number. So we are maintaining internal number here, 1 to so and so. Currently, we have created up to 147 profiles. Okay. So this is the profile number range. Then define the units of measurement for the division and the profile value category. Okay. That means whenever you enter the data, it is pertaining to two things. One is the division for which you are entering, and also the dimension of the data. Now, in our case, we are having electricity, that is one, gas, water. In case of energy, in the case of electricity, what kind of data you can enter? It can be for energy. Energy means kilowatt hour. It can be power, demand, AADL. AADL is basically having no dimension. Okay. For example, we'll be creating some profiles which are called factor profiles. When you want to create a sensitive profile, you'll be creating a factor profile in which you will have no unit of measurement. Okay. It's just a number, numerical number. That means no dimension. Okay. So we'll be creating different types of profiles containing energy, profile containing demand, profile containing the factors, profile containing the price, profile containing the amount. Okay. So in certain cases, either it is energy or power. In certain cases, no dimension. Okay. So that is what we have given here. And accordingly, profile value will be given. Now, having understood this configuration, let us now create a profile. When you create a profile, first you create a profile attribute, which is called profile header. That means once you create a profile, you are going to put the data in the profile. But whatever data you are putting in the profile, they all have the same header level data. That means what is header level data? It's an attribute of the profile. This profile is number so and so. This is created for the division 60. This is a profile type, elementary profile. Interval length is 15 minutes. And it's going to store energy data in kWh. This is a common data applicable to each and every profile value. So instead of repeating the data again and again for each value, we store this data in the form of a profile header. That means you are creating the characteristics of the profile. Once the profile header is ready, we can enter the data into the profile. That means all the values what you enter is controlled by the header level data, what we have maintained. So let's create one profile straight away. Go to create. And then here we will say the interval data 15 minutes for meter 1133. Our division is 60. That means you have to enter the actual division. Then what is the profile type? Here the profile type is historical profile. Consistency check group, status. Consistency check group means basically when you create a profile, each and every value will have a status. Like if you create a profile, the status is data not entered. Once the data is entered, data is entered. And then once you make some change in the data, data changed. Automatically system will assign the status to each and every value in the profile. That is basically consistency check group. And this profile is valid from 01/01/2020. That means effectively this profile can contain the data effectively from 1st of January. Okay. That means if the profile is valid from 1st of January 2019, that means you can have the historical data stored in the profile starting from the 1st of January 2019. Only from this date, the data will be available in the profile. That is the meaning of the validity. And then here we are going to enter what is the interval length. Interval length is going to be 15 minutes. And then in the profile, what is that you're going to store? Okay. Profile value category, it's going to be quantity. When you say quantity in electricity, it means the energy. It is kWhr. Okay. So these are the kind of values that you can enter: quantity, demand, amount, price, factor. We will be using all of them in the due course of time. Let's say quantity. And what is a measurement unit? The energy is measured in kilowatt hour. That is kWh. And then are you going to enter the data in decimal? If so, how many decimals? So we will say 2 decimals. And the cumulative value. Cumulative value means when you have the profile can show us what is the total consumption happened for the profile for the whole day. It can show what is the peak consumption, what is the total consumption. So these are additional data what you can see in the profile once the values have been put. Now, one thing you should remember, when you create a profile, you have to enter the data correctly. And once you save it, you cannot change any data. It will be all in display mode, except the description of the profile. That means whenever you create a profile, you have to see whether we have entered all the data correctly, because by mistake, if you have done wrong data, we cannot change it. Okay. At the most, you can change only profile description. So we can check it once again. So our profile, what we're creating is for division 60, historical profile, status check group, and then validity from 1st of January. And our particular data is going to be interval length 15 minutes. And it's going to store the data, which is energy data quantity, and unit of measurement is going to be kWh, decimal places to cumulative value. Now save it. So now a profile has been created as 148. This is our EDM profile 148. That means if you put the data in this profile, if you put the data in this particular profile, it will be available for billing. Okay. But how will the system know this is the profile which is to be used for our meter? Okay. Tomorrow when the EMI company will send the data will have to be put into this profile. But the data coming from the EMI company pertains to which meter? So that is the meter number what we have. So now we are going to assign the profile to meter. Assign the profile to meter. That means if you put the data in this profile, it means the data pertains to so and so meter. So we will do the profile assignment. So go to, we have already saved it, profile allocation. Go to change and then enter the profile. Our profile here is 148. And effectively we are allocating from 01/01/2020 31st 12 to the first 12 999, enter. Then select the profile and then double click. So here we will see the allocation parameters. So if you remember, when you created the EDM profile, EDM RTP management, we said the particular assignment we are doing for a particular profile or based on the role. Okay. So we assign the role as consumption measured. So we are assigning here the profile using the role as consumption measured. That means what is the purpose of this profile? This profile is going to store the actual consumption data, what is recorded by the meter. That is the role of this particular profile. So the role is 0001, and then insert the profile, the meter number. So effectively from 1st of January 2020, the device 1133, okay, our device number is 1133, what we have created earlier. This particular meter is assigned with the profile that is basically 148. So 148 is a profile which is going to store the data for the meter number 1133. So when you do the billing, we require the data for this meter in the form of profile so that the billing can happen. Okay. So we have created the profile, we've assigned it to the basically the installation meter, and this meter has been assigned to the installation, and for the installation we also assigned the POD. So now our data is all completely ready. Tomorrow first we'll do the moving, then create a metering order. We enter some data into the profile. I will have some test data for the consumption for every 15 minutes. We'll put it into the profile and then we'll execute the billing and then see how RTP billing will happen. And then you can check how the system is calculating on peak, mid peak, off peak quantity, demand value. Okay. So tomorrow we will do the rest of the data.
Okay, sir.
Okay, right.
Hello.
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 Yeah. Hello.
Sir. Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
When you're asking something?
Yeah, I wanted to ask that you showed that the profile is being created and the data is copied. Now, say for example, if we have millions of consumers for which we have to do this thing, then we need to enter the devices manually for each and every consumer? That device mapping assignment, that device and assignment which you did in the last with the profile and
that you can do even with the LSMW or BDC. Let's say for example, you prepare first data in a flat file or Excel file,
Hmm.
and then you load into
Okay.
the system. So it will create automatically assignment.
Okay.
At a time, we can do thousands of meters can be assigned to thousands of profiles at a time.
Okay.
That can be done. That can. Here we are doing because only one data, but tomorrow suppose
Yes,
you've
sir.
got 5,000 meters, 10,000 meters, or 1 lakh, or 1 million. So you can have the data prepared initially in the flat file.
Hmm.
This is the profile number, this is the data of allocation, this is the meter number, and then you have the data in the text file. Release the data into the system by using LSMW or BDC.
This
and
profile,
automatically send it to that.
this profile calculation, our
Uh-huh.
profile which we have created or calculating, it
Mhm.
it can be irrespective of the consumer category. Say, for example, domestic consumer or
Ah,
non-domestic consumer,
yeah,
they can be
yeah.
same profile can be
See,
used for them.
yeah. Basically, profile doesn't distinguish. It only has the data. But you may have different types of meters. Usually, smart meter itself is not like commercial or the what you call the individual or the commercial or individual. But in the software, they can say these are the data what you can print out in the customer level. Usually, smart meters are not saying that it is an energy meter, demand meter. It is reading the consumption continuously, but based on the
Okay.
ADM profile, we'll be able to generate the demand value also. There's no need of a separate demand meter.
Okay.
Hmm. Is it okay?
Yeah, fine, got sir. So
Oh,
this will be the way to do
yeah,
means the
exactly. Yeah.
profile management.
Tomorrow you'll see
And
how this process.
the
Yeah,
price. Hello,
yeah.
hello.
Hello. Yes, yes. Please tell.
Yeah, one small thing. Uh,
Yeah.
is in because in our utility we are not using this smart metering extensively. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, I don't think we are using it itself
Okay.
extensively. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
just asking that whether in India, in anywhere or in any state utilities or anywhere, is this demand meter or this smart meter being used extensively
No,
for the
smart
billing
meters.
purpose?
Yeah, yeah. Smart meters. They are deployed in Maharashtra in Aurangabad.
Okay.
They got Aurangabad smart meter. Basically, it's called smart metering for the water utilities. So they are
Hmm.
using for the water utilities, not for the energy, electricity, but
Okay.
water management they are doing with the smart meter. So electricity
Okay.
still we have not come across any state government implementing because the smart meter is initiative. It requires a lot of initial initiative to be done by the distribution company, energy companies, because you have
Hmm.
to bring in a third party company, EMI company, installation of meters, and also cost is very high. The smart meters are pretty costly, but
No.
buying and installing is not a matter, but reading and
Yes.
then initially when you install meter reading, coming and sitting in meter, a lot of teasing problems will be there initially.
But
So
sir, with the current
it's a,
current government, the regulations and everything, they are
Mhm,
going for the prepaid meter in
mhm,
entire India.
uh-huh,
Prepaid meter in entire India.
uh-huh, yeah,
So
yeah,
again,
yeah.
that is a smart meter only. That prepaid
No, no,
meter.
no. Prepaid meter is not a smart meter. Prepaid meter is just like a regular meter only, but there you
Okay.
are not doing any kind of billing in the sense your meter is loaded with some amount and you put it in the installation. It will keep on
Okay.
consuming. The moment it reaches the zero balance, the power will be disconnected. That means
Mhm.
the prepaid meter is something like a prepaid our mobiles. Okay, so the moment you
Okay.
amount is over, we cannot talk like that only. It's not a smart meter.
But sir, in that case also, as far as my understanding, which what I have
Mm-hmm,
come to know about smart meter,
mm-hmm.
in that also this every 15-minute data will be stored and a calculation will be done based on the 15-minute data at the end of
No,
the day or maybe.
no, that I'm not aware because regular prepaid meters were available even right from the day one. I mean, it's not that only when the
Okay.
smart meters have come, prepaid meters have come. Prepaid meters, although not in
Okay.
India, they have been in existence much earlier in so many other countries like US and UK. So it is nothing to do with the
Hmm.
smart metering, as far as I know. But if the latest development
Hmm.
is smart meter, it may be. That means our prepaid meter is a smart meter. It could be possible.
Yes, because we had a company called EDF. You would be
Mm-hmm,
heard about its name. That's
mm-hmm,
a French company.
mm-hmm,
They are being a part of EESL. That is a government of
mm-hmm.
India organization, and these
Okay.
both are in this in the process. implementing this smart prepaid meters. That was their presentation. Smart prepaid meters.
Okay. No,
So
word
then I
smart.
thought that maybe this time of usage and all those stuff.
No, the word smart could be also having its own meaning. Let me check it. What you're saying, smart meters for this
Yes, sir.
thing.
Because
But if you
what
check
I
in
presume
the
from the
yeah, sorry. Continue.
what, sir?
No, you were saying something.
What I presume from the discussion that in the discussion that day, they were not using the concept of that TOD and all those stuff. Time of
Yeah.
usage, and they were not
See,
using that.
actually, there's
They were
nothing
using
like
the simple
metering.
concept.
Actually, there's nothing like metering to be done. Why? Because if you consume today, let's say you charge for 500 kilowatt hour in this month. So first you consumed 20 kilowatt hour. That means meter is going to deduct out of 520. So rest 480 you can use for the remaining days. But that 480 you can use it in 10 days, 15 days, 2 days, depending on how the rate of consumption you are doing. So it's not doing any metering. It's only
And in our course, we can view that logic as to, for example, how a deduction can be done on day-to-day basis
no,
for the consumption
actually
part.
the
Say for example,
interface is not fully available in our system. Actually, it will work with only third-party company software. So the predefined what you call consumption meters we cannot create in the system. But although we can create, meter can be created, but the calculation you cannot do independently. It has to sync with the third-party software. That's the reason we are not able to do it. You can check in the customer service in the process execution. There is some customization, but based on that, you cannot be able to do. You require the integration with the third party. Then only you can do it. If you want, I can send you the link. You can go through it. Is it okay? We'll close for today. I think you lost the connectivity. Okay, tomorrow we'll see.